Here's a DIY on how to turn your Wishables into bag charms. I have the Blue Fairy Wishable because it'll go great with my Blue Fairy Loungefly bag. Some DMC embroidery needles. As you can see, they're much more bigger than your average needle. And some DMC embroidery floss, which I got from Michaels, shade 747, picking a color that matched her as best I could. Some lobster claw clasp that I got off Amazon. A pair of scissors. And then pliers or anything really with a flat head to help pull the needle through. You'll see what I mean in a bit. And if you'd like to, go ahead and cut the tag off. And now she's ready for Operation Charm Bag. I'm going to use 4 loops of the floss so I have enough to work with. And after licking the tip, I'm going to hope I can get this through the needle. Now that I got that through, I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot on the needle. You only need one because you'll see in a bit why. So now we're going to get started putting the needle through, and you want to start at the base of the wishable, finding a good spot to poke the needle through. Once the needle is in, you're going to gently push the needle upwards, and then you're going to bring it back out through the base of the neck. And what you'll likely find is that pulling the needle through is actually really difficult. So this is where those pliers or any sort of thing with a flat head is going to work to help you pull the needle through. I'm using these punching pliers to gently pull the needle through, making sure I don't pull out any stuffing or damage the wishable. And then I'm going to slowly pull most of the string through the body, making sure I leave it just enough at the end to make a double knot. And once that's done, I'm going to do a quick pull test to make sure it's secure. And as you can see, tugging on it, the knot is not going through, giving me a good base to continue on. Next, we're going to go ahead and tie a knot at the base of the neck, securing the spot before we move on to the next part. Just be careful when tying the knot on the back. You don't want it too far away from the base of the neck. Try to keep it as close as you can without tugging it any more than you need to. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and get the needle and stick it back through the base of the neck and bringing it up to the top of the wishable. And I want to find a spot that's secure but also a little discreet. So I'm going to go with that corner right there. And I'm going to bring it up and going back in with the pliers to grab the needle and pull it all the way through the plush. Then taking one of the clasps, we're going to get the string and we're going to put it through the bottom loop of the clasp and just bringing that all the way through until we have a good amount of string to make the first loop. Now we're going to take the needle and go through the head, taking it all the way back to the base of the neck again. And then going back in with our trusty pliers to pull the needle through. But make sure you're extra cautious with this because you don't want to just yank the needle through all the way. Now we're going to make the first loop for the clasp. You want to give it just a good amount of room for it to dangle and twist a bit, because if it's too tight, then it's going to probably pull the wishable and de-shape it. Then we're going to go ahead and tie another knot to secure that base before we move on to the next incision. Once that's done, we're going to go back through the neck and we're going to bring it up to the head just like we did with the first loop. And once that's in, we're going to go back in with the pliers to pull that needle through. And again, not pulling too hard because you don't want to damage the plush. Then we're going to do the same exact thing as we did with the first loop. And now I'm going to bring the needle through the head again and back to the base of the neck. I switched it around so you guys can see it a little bit better with the light on it. And just being extra careful when tugging the needle through, because this is the part where you're going to make the second loop up on top. Try to keep it the same length as the first one is, and especially making sure that it's not too tight, again, for the same reason like last time. And now we're almost done. So after seeing that the clasp is pretty good and secure, we're going to go ahead and tie another secure knot to the base of the neck. Now this time we're going to bring the needle through the body, and we're going to bring it back up through the end of the plushie. And once that's through, we're going to go back in with the pliers to bring that needle up and out through the body with one final pull around, making sure that we get all the string through. And this is where that extra floss is going to come in handy, because now we have a good amount to go ahead and make 2 secure knots. I went ahead and cut the needle off camera, and now we're going to go ahead and start with the first knot. And now it gets a little tricky at the end because there's not as much floss as we had to start with. So you want to be a little cautious when trying to tie this knot in, because remember, the floss is made of 6 pieces of string. And the less floss there is to work with, the more likely it's going to start unraveling. Since these last 2 knots are like the last line of defense, I want to make sure that they are as secure as possible, keeping it as close to the base as I can. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and cut the excess off. There probably is better scissors to use, but I just use the ones that I have on hand. And now she's all done. The clasp is secure. She dangles pretty well. All the knots are in discrete places where you can't see them that much. And if you happen to tug on the plushie a bit too hard and lose its shape, it's pretty easy to put them back into their original shape. And now she's all set and ready to go for my next Disney trip with my beautiful blue fairy bag.